Hello and welcome to TRBCollectibles. My name's Tom and I will be your guide through this estate sale and another one because today is a double feature. So stay tuned because right after this one, we're going to a second one. It's always exciting to see a 50% off sign right on the front door as you walk in. If you've never been to an estate sale before, its primary directive is to sell all the items in the house by a third-party company. There are many reasons as to why the estate sale exists. One of the primary ones is that a loved one has passed away and the family doesn't know what to do with the belongings, so they decide to sell them. Another reason is that a family could be moving, and they decide to sell all their belongings instead of moving it. Another reason is that a family is separating it, and rather than dividing out the items, they just decide to sell the entire house, including all of its belongings. Another reason is a family member has to move into an assisted living home, and the other family members don't know what to do with their belongings, so they decide to sell them. In this case, it was clear that this family was moving. A lot of the items were newer, the house was newer, so it wasn't your typical estate sale. But I was still hopeful to find something. If you've seen my other videos, you do know that I like to rate the restroom. Now, this one was very cookie cutter. It's brand new. There's nothing unique about it. It didn't feel vintage at all. It was something that you would find at Lowe's, and you would just decide to build it in your home. So, out of restrooms that I've seen, this one was pretty basic and modern. I've mentioned this in other videos as well. I think every house paints its own picture, and as I went through this one, I started to realize that this wasn't your regular estate sale. They were clearly moving, this being the class of 2021. At the end of the sale, I asked the company, is this family moving? And they did say yes. So, the house painted its own picture. I'll always call it out. Another hometown shout out, New York City.
Looks like you did pretty well.
Oh, yeah. This was a lot.
Unfortunately, in this kitchen, you won't find any vintage appliances, but you know what you will find? As many power outlets as you need to run any appliance to your heart's content. Another nice touch is having that faucet right over the stove to fill any pot full, rather than having to lug that pot to the sink, fill it, and then carry it back to the stove. Just a couple kitchen ideas. I think at some point I'm going to have to start ranking pools at estate sales. It's so tempting on days like this, when it's so hot out, to just jump in. We finally made it to the garage, and they did have a couple bins to go through, which is kind of my favorite, because you never know what you might find. Estate sales tend to put things in the garage that they don't know what to do with in the house, so it's always fun to see what you can find. And also, I see a stack of media ahead of me that I can't wait to look up. As I go through the media, I also noticed that there were a couple sealed ones. And I always make sure to look up the ones that I don't know, because those tend to be the ones that do bring in a little bit of profit. Unfortunately, at this estate sale, I did not walk away with any media. Welcome to TRBCollectibles. I did this, didn't I? Welcome to the second estate sale. I'm still Tom, and I will be your guide. I'm not sure if you caught it, but on that opening sign it said 50% off most items. Granted, a lot of these items aren't even marked in general, so I don't even know what most items qualifies as. My favorite category, media, and I'm gonna go through it. One thing that I do want to point out within this, do you see that Santana CD that I just brought up? I don't know what it is, it must have been super popular, but a lot of estate sales that I go to that still have CDs always have that Santana CD. Couldn't tell you, just to let you know, it does not carry a value in reselling.
And what's in here?
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
$37.50 today's price. Yeah, it's 3,500 divided by 2. 17.50. 35 divided by 2. 17.50.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Did you talk to David?
Underneath all those CDs was all of these audiobooks. Audiobooks tend to do okay if you can get them for a decent price and lot them up. They do okay on their own if they're brand new sealed or if they're quite rare. In this case, based off the price point, I decided not to pick those up. I've never experienced this at an estate sale before. This estate sale was being held for an individual who owned the home, who's moving into an assisted care facility, in which all of the belongings in the house were being sold. But even more odd, the person that's moving into the assisted care facility is sitting out just relaxing by the pool, watching all of their personal belongings being sold. Now, since the owner was still living in the home at the time of this estate sale, that back room, including those totes and items out by the pool, were still owned by the owner and not being sold. But the rest of the house was for sale. Now, I sell a wide variety of different items on eBay, but one thing that I've decided that I'm not going to be able to sell any further, clothing, and boots like these. But does that mean there's no value to it? Of course not. There's definitely a value to it. I am just not used to selling it. I don't have an eye for it, but for those that do, hey, go for it, and don't not look it up. Boots like that could actually go for a really decent price, especially if they're in decent condition. And if you give it a little bit of love, polish it up, you can actually get an even better price than what some other sellers are selling for it that didn't take the care and time for the item that they bought. As you can see, all the paperback books were $2 each, but with 50% off, that means they were $1 a piece. Rather than look them up individually, which I tried to do, they didn't have much value, but as a lot, they probably could do better. So I saw that there was 1 through 7, so I pulled out my handy dandy eBay app to look them up.
Pardon?
Are you running any sales or promotions today?
They're at 50% off.
50% off today, okay.
Remember that sign we saw from before? Most items 50% off? I was just confirming. I went ahead and looked up these 7 books as a lot, and I learned that there was more books in the series. So what I would have gotten wouldn't have made a decent profit, so I had to leave them behind.
$50 today.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to click that like button. And if you have some spare time, check out some of these other videos. Thanks!